If you fly regularly from the USA to Europe, you'll probably be aware that the majority of flights take place overnight. They're known as red-eye flights, and for me, they're some of the most uncomfortable flights to take in economy class, simply because I personally don't rest well enough and get off feeling pretty exhausted the next day. There are, however, a handful of airlines that do fly during the day from the USA to the UK, and today I'm going to be trying one of those flights with Virgin Atlantic on the A330. Will I feel any more human getting off the plane? Let's find out. Welcome to Blake Edgington Airborne. Let's get going.
Located in Queens, New York's John F. Kennedy Airport is around 16 miles from Manhattan and has 6 terminals, with Virgin Atlantic flying from Terminal 4, which isn't much surprise considering it's also a hub for their partners Delta. Now, having heard mostly negative things about JFK and never visiting myself, I wasn't expecting too much, but I was pleasantly surprised by the check-in area, which was bright, modern and not too crowded. The red Virgin desks were very easy to spot, and I was soon on my way to spend some time airside. Much like when I arrived at the airport, my first impressions of the departure lounge were very positive. This part of the airport opened in 2001 and replaced the old International Arrivals building. And maybe this is controversial, but for me, it rivals some of the best facilities that I've seen both in the USA and in Europe. It clearly caters to international travel and offers a great selection of shops for departing passengers, as well as plenty of choice for those needing some pre-flight food and drink. A good amount of seating is available near the gate areas, and there's even artwork dotted around the terminal, although I much prefer the views outside.
So my first time through Terminal 4 here at JFK, and I'm really impressed. A really nice terminal. But I don't have too much longer to explore because it's that time. Let's make our way to the aircraft and fly to London.
Virgin Atlantic currently operate a bit of a mixed fleet of long-haul aircraft. At time of filming, Virgin flies 17 of the modern Boeing 787 Dreamliners, and the airline is gradually replacing its ageing A340 and 747 aircraft with the stunning A350 which have flown on before. The A330-300 that I'm on board today will also be replaced by newer A330 Neo jets over the coming years. The cabin on this aircraft is quite different to Virgin's newer planes, so let's see what you can expect on board. The crew got the service underway soon after departure, and with the flight departing just after 8 o'clock, it was time for breakfast. Now, it was a little bit early for alcohol in my book, so I opted for an apple juice. Virgin advertised this service as a light breakfast, and boy do they mean light. 6 pieces of fruit and a small yoghurt isn't what I'd call substantial, but it tasted nice and I was way too busy staring out of the window anyway to worry about going hungry. Back inside the aircraft, and the Virgin A330 has a total of 264 seats, split between 31 in upper class, 48 premium economy and 185 economy seats at the rear of the plane, all of which had a good quality pillow and blanket placed on them during boarding. Now of course this 9-year-old aircraft wasn't quite as spectacular as the new A350, but it was by no means bad. In fact, I actually preferred the lighting on this particular plane. There's still the disco-like purple colour to the lights, but it wasn't nearly as harsh and it made the cabin feel quite relaxed. Individual air vents are provided, which I am personally a big fan of, and although not the most spacious in the world, the overhead lockers can accommodate all but the largest of cabin baggage. Sadly, I found that the cleaning could have been a little better as there were stains found around my seat from previous flights. Thankfully though, the toilets were in a much better state, and as far as toilets go, they're pretty smart too. So with the breakfast service out of the way, now's a good time to take a look at the seat that you could expect to find in economy class on the A330. As I was travelling on a light fare, seat selection was not included with my ticket, and I paid £20 to choose a seat before departure. Economy class on the A330 is laid out in a 242 configuration, and I chose a seat at the rear of the aircraft. As expected on a long-haul aircraft, at the top of the seat is the entertainment system, which was definitely not the most modern one I've ever seen, and we'll look more closely at it soon. You can see that at the bottom are your controls for individual reading lights as well as a crew call button. The screen can be tilted to provide a better viewing angle when the seat in front is reclined, and while the system is touchscreen, an old-school controller is also provided. Power via USB is available, as is an Ethernet connection, although I doubt this gets much use nowadays. Let's take a look at the tray table now, which appears to have space for what I assume was a drinks holder, which has now been removed. With the table opened up, you can see that it is rather small, and my A5 notebook takes up the majority of space available. The table provides a space to keep a drink in place, but as it's so shallow, I doubt it's very much use, and you can of course adjust the table if required. Near the bottom of the seat is some storage space, which has room for personal items as well as a literature provided by Virgin. My biggest issue with this seat though was the legroom, which was tighter than I've had on many short-haul flights, and this meant that it was certainly not what I'd call a comfortable journey. From this angle you can see there is quite a generous recline in the economy seat, which is good for the person who wants to relax, but pretty bad for the person sat behind. So clearly I wasn't particularly impressed with the seat, which does look nice, but for me that's about it. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments. With this being a daytime flight and me being wide awake, I had plenty of time to enjoy Virgin's onboard entertainment system, Vera. The amount of content available isn't the best out there, but there was certainly enough to keep me occupied on this flight, and I did like the layout with shortcuts at the top of the screen and a section where you could save your favourite content to access quickly. It's also always nice to see that children are catered for. Unfortunately, the picture quality on this system wasn't brilliant, and the touchscreen itself wouldn't always respond when I was trying to select a channel. I was however very impressed by the in-flight map, which had much more detail than I was expecting. Despite this aircraft being equipped with Wi-Fi, I simply could not connect on this flight, which unfortunately meant I couldn't update my social media follows with images from the trip until I landed. But make sure, if you don't already, to follow me on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter for all of my future travels. As we approached the UK and with the sun beginning to set, it was time for the crew to carry out their final service before arrival. First up was a round of drinks, which was served with a bag of pretzels, and I was grateful to the crew for offering 2 cans, which made up for the small size. I then had a few minutes to take a look at the menu and decide what to have for dinner. Virgin offer 3 choices for the main course, and maybe because I was quite hungry at this point, but all of the options sounded quite appetising, although I didn't have high hopes for the quality based on my previous flight. Thankfully this was much better. The meal was served on a single tray, and to start was a very fresh pasta salad with sun-dried tomato. I opted for the pulled pork main, which visually wasn't great, but it tasted much better than it looked, and I'd happily have this again. The only real letdown was the key lime pudding, which was tiny and instantly forgettable. But all in all, it was a big improvement over the breakfast.
And that's it, another flight is drawing to a close. Make sure to stick around till the end of the video for my final thoughts on today's trip with Virgin Atlantic. Now it's a little bit dark outside, so I'm not sure how much we'll see, but try and enjoy the landing. So welcome to Europe after that flight with Virgin Atlantic, and we'll kick off the pros and cons by answering the question I asked right at the very start. Does it make more sense, at least for me, to fly transatlantic flights to Europe from the USA during the day? Absolutely it does. I got off that flight yesterday feeling absolutely fine, none of the normal tiredness or anything that I've had on overnight flights, so I'll certainly look to do it again. But now to focus on the trip itself, and we'll start off with JFK Terminal 4, and as I said earlier on the video, it kind of blew me away. I really wasn't expecting much based on what I read online, and I guess that answers the question. You shouldn't always believe what you read on the internet, because everything I saw was fantastic, and it's definitely a rival for some of the better airports I've travelled through over the past couple of years. A special mention has to go to the TSA staff. Yes, that's right, I want to praise TSA, not just for this trip, but also all of my USA trips I took in 2019. All the staff I met at TSA security checkpoints were fantastic, really friendly, really helpful. It was a breeze, so big thumbs up to them. But of course the focus of this video has to be the flight, and we'll start off by talking about the crew. Now, much like on my A350 flight, the crew were fantastic. Maybe a little bit more relaxed than you find on certain airlines, but that isn't a bad thing at all. They were very, very friendly. And one member of crew in particular did me a big favour. Now, as you'd have seen from the video, the seat, well, I found it a little bit cramped, and a member of crew spotted this during the meal service, so she made sure to ask the passenger in front to sit upright, just so I had a little bit more room to enjoy my food. She knew exactly what she was doing, and it was very much appreciated. Speaking of that seat, it wasn't the best. In fact, in my 2019 Airborne Awards video, I said it was the worst long-haul seat I'd tried that year, and that is the case. The legroom was poor, but not only that, I found the cushioning on it wasn't really great either. I really struggled to find a comfortable position. That, coupled with the fact that the in-flight entertainment, while having decent content, was a really poor interface, it was a little bit disappointing overall for the seat. The food on this flight, well, I have to say, I wasn't expecting much based on my A350 flight the day before, but it impressed me. I actually found it very tasty. The portion sizes though could be a little bit bigger in my opinion, so maybe if you are taking this flight, particularly as the main meal isn't served until you're nearing Europe, grab a bite to eat in the terminal. Overall then, what did I think of my trip with Virgin Atlantic? They kind of remind me of Jet2. Now bear with me on that one. When I first flew with Jet2, I read a lot of great things about them online. They've got many supporters, such as Virgin Atlantic do. But I found it a little bit disappointing, didn't quite meet my expectations, and that's what I had after my first Virgin flight on the A350. It was good, but wasn't everything I hoped. However, I definitely do see them as an airline that would certainly grow me, and I do hope to try them again in future. There's something quite unique about Virgin Atlantic compared to many airlines, such as British Airways, for example, and I can definitely see why so many people like it. It's not my favourite, but it probably could be given time. Let me know what you think of Virgin Atlantic in the comment section below. I'd love to read your feedback as always. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss a future video. And as always, take care.